Does your language control your mind? And you didn't even realize it. Hello, curious minds. Have you ever stopped to think about this? Does a person who speaks Chinese think the same way as someone who speaks Spanish? I'm not talking about what they think, but how they think. Today we're going on a deep dive, one of those journeys that change the glasses through which you see the world. And we'll do it by descending together through 5 levels of knowledge, from what everyone thinks they know, to the mind-blowing secrets that will blow your mind. I promise you that when we're done, the word think will have a completely new meaning for you. Let's start with level 1, the surface everyone knows. I'm sure you've heard about this, colors. There are languages that have many more words for certain colors than others. For example, in Russian, there isn't a single word for blue. They have goluboy for light blue and siny for dark blue, and for them, they are as different as red and pink are to us. The obvious question is, does this make them see the world with more shades of blue than we do? Another classic, the gender of things. In Spanish, el puente, the bridge, is masculine. In German, die Brücke, the bridge, is feminine. So what? Well, it seems to matter. In studies, Spanish speakers were asked to describe a bridge and used words like strong, long, robust. German speakers used words like beautiful, elegant, slender. Grammar seems to be whispering to our brains how to perceive objects. Now let's travel to Australia. There's an Aboriginal tribe, the Guugu Yimithirr, who don't use words like left or right. They don't exist in their language. Instead, they use cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. They would tell you something like, be careful, you have an ant on your southwest leg. Sounds crazy, right? But it has a fascinating origin. For thousands of years, their survival depended on perfect orientation in a landscape without signs or streets. Their language became an indispensable mental compass. And finally, time. In Spanish or English, we talk about time as if it moves horizontally. We leave the past behind and look forward to the future. But Mandarin speakers, for example, often describe it vertically. Next month is the month below, and last month is the month above. This leads us to a very simple question that we almost never ask ourselves. Why do we take it for granted that time is a straight line moving forward? Who decided it should be this way? Okay, colors, gendered objects, compasses in the head, and vertical time. This is what we could call the tip of the iceberg. These are the curious facts that appear in a viral post, the anecdotes we tell to seem interesting. It's what almost everyone knows about this topic. But if this is what we see on the surface, what secret engines move it underneath? Why do these things happen? It's time to dive in. Welcome to Level 2. Level 2, the hidden mechanisms. Remember the colors in Russian? The first revelation is that it's not about their eyes, but their brain. This happens due to a principle called categorical perception. Think of your brain as a very lazy office worker who loves to organize everything into boxes. If your language gives you 2 separate boxes, one called light blue and another dark blue, your brain treats them as fundamentally distinct things. Language doesn't change what you see, but it does give you the boxes to categorize it. Now let's talk about an invisible rule that forces you to think in a certain way. It's called grammatical obligatoriness. It's not that a Spanish speaker cannot think of an object without gender, it's that the language forces you to specify it every time you speak. You can't say, vai un silla bonita, I saw a beautiful chair, masculine article. You have to say, una silla bonita, feminine article. That invisible rule forces you, hundreds of times a day, to pay attention to the gender we've assigned to things. It's constant subconscious mental training. This mental training leads us directly to a factory error of our brain, confirmation bias. What is that? It's very simple. It's our brain's tendency to seek evidence that confirms what we already believe. For example, if you believe your team is the best, you'll only notice their good plays and the opponent's mistakes. Well, the same thing happens with language. If your language forces you to call a bridge feminine, your brain, without you realizing it, will actively start looking for elegant or slender characteristics to confirm that label. Language creates the suspicion, and confirmation bias turns it into certainty. Let's go back to the tribe with the mental compass. This didn't just appear out of nowhere. Imagine for a second being a hunter-gatherer 10,000 years ago on a vast and monotonous Australian plain. There are no streets, no buildings. Your only way to get back to camp, find that water source, or tell your companion where the prey is by having a perfect and shared mental map. Their language isn't an eccentricity, it's a survival technology honed over centuries. And here's the key to why all these mechanisms exist. They solve a fundamental human need, the need to have a shared reality. Language is the glue that binds our minds. If everyone in my culture uses the same boxes for colors, assigns the same genders to objects, and orientates themselves with the same mental compass, we can collaborate, build, and understand each other. Language creates a common mental universe in which we can all live together. And the last hidden gear completely changes how we see everything we've talked about. It's the framing effect. The way you present information changes everything. It's not the same to say this operation has a 90% success rate as this operation has a 10% failure rate. The information is identical, but the feeling isn't. Well, language is the ultimate frame. It's not that Russians see a color we don't see. It's that their language frames that portion of reality differently, forcing them to pay more attention to it. It's not magic, it's brain marketing. So by understanding these gears, the mental boxes, the invisible rules, the biases, and the frames, something changes. We stop being mere puppets of our language and start to see the strings. Understanding how it works gives us the power to at least be aware of the architecture of our own mind. But if you thought we had it all figured out, get ready, because this is where the story gets really chaotic and scientists start pulling their hair out. It's time to descend to level 3. Level 3, the chaos of reality. Here we find the first great controversy: linguistic determinism versus linguistic relativity. There are two camps. The hard camp, the determinists say, your language is a prison. You cannot think of concepts for which you have no words. It's like being locked in a windowless room. The soft camp, the relativists say, no, it's not a prison, it's more like a house. Language gives you some default doors and windows, but with effort you can build others. Nowadays, almost no one believes in the prison idea, but the debate about how thick the walls of that house are is more alive than ever. Now let me tell you a secret to challenge a popular belief. I'm sure you've heard the myth that Eskimos have hundreds of words for snow. Well, it's false. It's a hoax that has gone viral for decades. First, there is no single Eskimo language. Second, many of those languages can create complex words by adding prefixes and suffixes, just like we can say snow, snowfall, to snow, blizzard. And why do we love to believe in that myth? Because it's a simple and powerful story that seems to confirm an amazing idea. Our brain loves shortcuts, even if they're lies. And this leads us to a mind-bending paradox. If language truly limited our thought strictly, translation would be impossible. And yet, here I am explaining in Spanish how an Australian tribe thinks. How can this be? Language shapes thought, but thought seems flexible enough to break free from that mold and understand others. It's as if water takes the shape of the glass that contains it, but can also spill out and flow freely. Where is the limit? Nobody knows. And here comes an ethical objection, a critical point of view. There's a dark side to all of this. When we say Germans think this way because of their language, or Japanese are more collectivistic because of theirs, we are dangerously close to falling into simplistic, almost racist cultural stereotypes. Aren't we using a fascinating scientific idea to justify old prejudices? It's an uncomfortable question. Where does science end and caricature begin? Furthermore, this controversy has changed over time. For much of the 20th century, the idea that language shapes thought was considered nonsense. Linguists, led by people like Noam Chomsky, focused on universal grammar, the idea that all humans are born with a kind of common brain operating system. But in recent decades, thanks to new experiments like those we've seen, the idea has returned with incredible force, but in a much more nuanced way. The pendulum of science has swung from one extreme to the other and is now seeking a middle ground. In the end, all this chaos connects us with one of the deepest questions of the human condition. Can I truly know what it's like to be inside your head? Can we escape the prison of our own subjectivity? Language is the best bridge we've built to connect minds, but if each bridge is made of slightly different materials, are we truly connected, or just close enough not to feel completely alone? As you can see, the reality of the topic isn't a neat story with a happy ending. It's a messy battlefield full of debates, myths, paradoxes, and difficult questions that don't have a single answer. The truth is complex and chaotic. Very good. You've survived the chaos? You've proven that your curiosity is stronger than confusion. Now it's time to see the details that separate the curious from the true connoisseurs. Welcome to Level 4. Level 4, Expert Knowledge. Let's start with a concept you won't find in a quick search. Remember we talked about left-right versus north-south? Scientists call this spatial frames of reference. Most of us use an egocentric frame. The world is organized around my ego, to my left, in front of me. The Australian tribe uses an allocentric frame. Objects relate to each other based on fixed points in the world. It's not just a curiosity. These are two fundamentally different operating systems for navigating reality. Now, a technical detail, but I'll explain it with an analogy. Scientists ask themselves, does language affect tasks that don't use language, like orienting oneself in a dark room? The analogy is this. Imagine your language is your computer's operating system, let's say Windows or Mac OS. Even when you're not using any program, the operating system is working in the background, organizing files in a specific way. Well, researchers discovered that language works the same way. The software of language, egocentric or allocentric, affects your brain's hardware, making speakers of allocentric languages much better at those spatial orientation tasks. Language is reconfiguring the brain at a fundamental level. And we have to talk about a secret hero. Everyone mentions the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, but who was Benjamin Lee Whorf? He wasn't an academic in an ivory tower. He was a chemical engineer who worked as a fire insurance inspector. Seriously. And it was his job that led him to this idea. He noticed that many fires occurred because workers behaved carelessly near empty gasoline barrels. The word empty made them think there was no danger, when in reality they were full of flammable vapor. The word was creating a deadly blind spot. It was this fieldwork, not philosophy, that originated everything. Now, the rebel view, an alternative theory, proposes something very elegant called the thinking for speaking hypothesis. It says that language doesn't control our thought all the time. Rather, it's like a filter that activates at the precise moment we are about to open our mouths. In that millisecond, our brain quickly packages our amorphous thoughts into the grammatical boxes that our language demands. So the influence of language wouldn't be constant, but a jolt that occurs precisely when we communicate. And here's a counterintuitive fact that complicates everything: bilinguals. One would think that someone who speaks, for example, Spanish and English, simply switches mental chips. And they do. But what's truly amazing is that being bilingual seems to improve cognitive flexibility in general. It's as if the effort of managing two linguistic systems at once trains your brain to be better at problem solving, paying attention, and task switching, even in things that have nothing to do with language. It's a real brain superpower. And now the aha moment where everything connects. Remember how we talked about colors at the beginning and then about mental boxes? And do you remember the rebel theory of thinking for speaking? Well, incredibly specific experiments have shown that the effect of language on color perception is stronger in one brain hemisphere than in another, depending on which side of your visual field the color appears. This is crazy. It means that the effect is not something philosophical and vague, but a tangible neurological process occurring in a specific place and time. Suddenly, the points from levels 1, 2, and 4 come together in a single picture. Reaching this level of detail isn't just about accumulating data. It's about understanding that what at first glance seems like magic is actually an incredibly sophisticated biological and psychological machinery. Seeing the world with this depth isn't just about knowing more, it's about having a more authentic vision of what it means to be a thinking human. We have reached the limit of what is known for certain. We have reached the edge of the map. Do you dare to look beyond to the final frontier, where there is only speculation and wonder? Let's go to level 5. Level 5, the final frontier. Imagine the future. What if in 100 years we not only learn languages, but design them tailored? Think of an artificial language, a Loglan or a Lojban 2.0, created not to talk with machines, but to hack our own thought. Could we create a language optimized for creativity, or one designed to eliminate cognitive biases? Could we literally install a new way of thinking? And now the deepest question that neither science nor philosophy can answer today, the mystery of qualia. Why does the experience of seeing the color red feel the way it feels? That subjective quality, that redness of red, is perhaps the greatest mystery of consciousness. We know that language can label that experience. The question is, can language create or alter the experience itself? Does the Russian person who has 2 words for blue have 2 fundamentally distinct feelings of blue? Nobody on planet Earth knows. This leads us to a dizzying philosophical idea. We always assume there's a reality out there, and that our language simply describes it better or worse. But what if that's not the case? What if much of reality is something we co-create through language? Think of concepts like money, justice, or a company. They don't exist in the physical world. They are real only because we have all agreed, using language, that they are. What if much of what we call objective reality is actually a shared consensual hallucination? Let's connect this to the future of humanity. Many of our biggest problems, political polarization, international conflicts, the inability to act on climate change, are, at their core, communication failures. They are clashes between different realities framed by language. Understanding at a deep level how our languages construct our worlds could be key to survival. Future diplomacy perhaps won't consist of translating words, but of translating entire universes of thought. And here I leave you with the most provocative and open-ended idea from the entire video. We have always thought that language is a tool that humans have developed to describe the universe. But what if it's exactly the other way around? What if the universe, through billions of years of evolution, has created life and consciousness within us so that we can develop language as a tool for the cosmos itself to begin to understand itself? Perhaps it's not us who think. Perhaps we are the medium through which the universe is, for the first time, articulating a thought. Our 5-level journey has ended. We have descended from simple curiosity to the abyss of cosmic wonder. Now, with this new and vast perspective, it's time to contemplate the full picture. We began this journey with a question that almost seems like an internet meme. Do people who speak Russian see blue differently? And we ended up at the very edge of existence, wondering if we are the universe becoming conscious of itself through our words. We have traveled from the grammatical gender of a bridge to the very nature of reality. That is the incredible distance we have covered together. I hope that now, when you think about language, you no longer see a simple dictionary of words, but the invisible architecture that builds your mind and perhaps the entire universe. Now it's your turn. Of this entire journey, what idea impacted you the most? The insurance inspector who started it all? The idea of designing languages to hack the mind? Or that last connection with the cosmos? Seriously, I can't wait to read your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your incredible curiosity. If these mind-bending deep dives fascinate you, subscribe, because there are many more fascinating abysses we're going to explore together.